Hi, friends. It's Deanna Williston with Our Blooming Catholic Life. And I know I said on Fridays we're going to start reading an encyclical, but I have my directed silent retreat during the time that you're watching this. And I wanted to wait and start that encyclical after that retreat. It just seemed very appropriate. And so today we're going to do a little book review, preview, one of our sneak insides of Johnny Cash, the autobiography, which may seem odd to you. I found his music. There's a song that Life Teen put on their Advent playlist on Spotify years ago, on The Man Comes to Town, and it's an Advent song. And I fell in love with that song, and then I started listening. I got a book for Dulcimer. It's not a book for Dulcimer. Let me rephrase that. I got a songbook of his and transcribed a bunch of his music for the Dulcimer because so much of it has to do with poverty and the poor man, and just really spoke to my Franciscan heart. And so I really wanted to know more about him. And this is an autobiography. It is written with someone else, with Patrick Carr, but I really wanted to read it. And he says, this book will be my own story, what I feel, what I love, what's happened as I remember it. If my life has anything to say, I'll say it here. So he's saying it's pretty authoritative. And let's jump in. There's a bunch of reviews on the back. New York Times calls it, New York Times book review. Not that I go by their book reviews, but they say it's insightful, relaxed, and conversational. The stories sing. Chicago Sun-Times says it's engaging, written with honesty and spiritual insight. Cash's stories shine. The Boston Globe said Cash is a good storyteller, fascinating, rich anecdotes, interesting observations. Any Cash fan will find a lot here to enjoy. I'll say each of those early reviews had a lot of dots that were printed on the back. The next one is from Country Music Magazine, which says Cash has always been cool. I'm not sure if the giant quote above that goes with that one or not. Let me read the description by the publisher. Johnny Cash, 1932 to 2003, was an American icon and country music superstar, a professed man of faith, as well as the author of 3 books. Cash first sang publicly while in the Air Force in the early 50s. The youngest person ever chosen for the Country Music Hall of Fame, he was also inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Songwriters Hall of Fame, and awarded 11 Grammys in a career that spanned generations. Married to country legend June Carter, Cash performed everywhere from Folsom Prison to the White House, hosted his own television show, appeared in feature films, and in 1996 received the Kennedy Center Lifetime Achievement Award. Patrick Carr, a veteran journalist of the country music scene, knew Johnny Cash for many years. How well did he know? We don't know, but it's nice to know that the ghostwriter or co-author knew him at least. So that's nice. So it sounds like they had met before the project. So that's good. I'm guessing that's supposed to be his autobiography or just very stylized. I don't know. The Autobiography by Johnny Cash with Patrick Carr, Harper One, an imprint of HarperCollins Publishers. Amazon gift receipt in there. Photographic credits appear on page 310 and constitute a continuation of this copyright page. So there's going to be a photo section. Surprise! Lyrics from the Ballad of Ira Hayes by Peter Lafarge, copyright 1962-1964, renewed by Edward McMarks. Lyrics from Father Along, another song. This one's by Jack Fascinato, copyright 1990 and renewed. Designed by Joseph Rutt. This book was copyrighted 1997 by John R. Cash, all rights reserved, printed in the United States of America. Interesting. The first paperback edition was 2003. It was dedicated to John Carter Cash, the gift, you have it, never forget that. Guessing that's their son. I'm guessing they're being cutesy here. Again, I'm assuming that that's his handwriting or a stylized version of it. Very cutesy, but again, it can make things difficult for read. You know, I'm always criticizing if things are difficult to read, and this is the time. So kind of These page numbers just seem to be floating. After the acknowledgments, and there's part 1, and then the book title, and then a little bit lower down is the page number, part 2, the title, and a little bit lower down. So you almost want to draw, this is my copy, I can do this. I don't know. You could draw a diagonal line, or honestly, I'm going to do this. This is my book. I can write in it. I think some of you are going to have a heart attack. Like, that wouldn't have been that hard, publishers. Draw the lines. Otherwise, these numbers are just kind of floaty floaters. That was really weird. So, acknowledgments. Part 1 is Cinnamon Hill. Part 2 is The Road. Part 3 is Port Richey. Part 4, Bon Aqua. And Part 5 is The Road again. Then there's a recording overview, a Johnny Cash discography, which is like a bibliography, but it's a list of records. Discography. Get it? You see what I'm saying about things being hard to read? That says acknowledgments. I get it. You're being stylistic. Also, it's a book. We need to read it. Like, get real. Sorry. It's just this little paragraph here, so there's not a lot there. And then part 1, Cinnamon Hill. So pretty easy to see when a new section begins, right? That's pretty easy to see. Are there chapters within these parts? There's a nice big 1 and a huge gap here. So again, easy to see. So I'm guessing that there are chapters within those parts. Oh, this book is set up really weird. And then 2. So yes. Surprise, these are really 5 parts and they have chapters within them, but they're not going to tell you that here. You're just going to find them in here by this big gap and then a giant number. You're going to wonder about the page numbers. Literally, they're in here. He's the author of the book, and it's the title of the book, and then the other page number. This is awful. Who would do that and why? Do you hate readers? What do you have against readers? Why couldn't you put the title of the book and have the page numbers in the outside corners? Friends, you're going to want a bookmark. Like, I'm sorry, that's not cool. Apparently, there's also divisions in sections with some dashes, little asterisks here. There's no new number here, so I'm not sure that's a section within a section. Apparently, a section within a section. Because then, 2 pages after that, then we're at part 2, The Road, and same thing. Start over with chapter 1. Yeah, the format starts throughout, like, no, the chapter title number or part number doesn't change. It doesn't even have, like, would it be that hard to have, like, a Roman numeral 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the corner somewhere so you know what part of the book you're in? If you're not going to tell me what chapter, oh, not doing that either. It's just not, we don't like readers. Sorry, readers. We don't like you. I don't know. There are photographs back here. They are glossy, black and white. They start around page 103. Yeah, I know. I can't show you the pictures, right? Book review, copyrights. It's a decent section. So it starts out with the back porch of their house in Arkansas, mom and dad and the kids. Shows them as little kids, 12th grade senior picture, airman in Germany, an older picture of his parents rewriting in the studio, June Carter performing at the Grand Ole Opry in 1958, Luther, Me and Marshall, Ernest Tubbs, that one's 1956, Backstage with Elvis, from the movie 5 Minutes to Live, 1961, The Carter Family Show, the 1970s, from Ride This Train Session at Gene Autry's Movie Ranch, 1959, ending with Rick Nelson in 1969, and he's with Carl Perkins, W.S. Holland in 1970. Are there more pictures later? I can see some. Yes. There's a whole nother section of pictures, and these start in the 60s, so they're on page 247, much later on in the book. Again, with a number of well-known celebrities as well as with family. Is that it? Nope, there's more pictures later. I know we just flashed by some. Oh, his grandchildren. His grandchildren are included in the back. And these ones, though, start on page 2 6.6, I think. And they're not glossy. They're just printed in the book. And then part 5, just part 5. Any other pictures? No. What does the discography look like? Okay. Well, I was going to show you from the first page, but the first page doesn't have any. So there's an introduction, and then I will show you. It has like the year, the name. Oh, so the first one was like a single. And then there's a little write-up about it. Could be just a sentence or two. Some of them have just a smidge longer. There's a number of pages. So it starts in 1955 and goes through goes through 1996. Okay. Let's pick a sample. I'm on page 50. One day I said to him, "You know, Pete, you've got infantile paralysis, but you sure can play that guitar." His reply made a deep impression on me. Sometimes, when you lose a gift, you get another one. From then on, I didn't think of him as a cripple. I thought of him as having a gift. You see where that Franciscan-y... Oh, the light went off. You can see where that Franciscan-y bit in here is, where his faith journey is. It hurt me when the other kids made fun of him. They'd seen him hobbling the 2 or 3 miles from his house into town, and they'd start imitating him. I imitated him too, of course, but not that way. He's where I got my guitar style, playing rhythm and leading with my thumb. Pete was crazy for music the way I was. He was the first person I knew who was that way. We were both crazy for the radio. It meant the world to us, literally. It goes without saying that we had no television, but neither did we have a record player or any other means of hearing music that we didn't already know. The radio was vital, indispensable. I clearly remember the day we got ours, a mail-order Sears Roebuck with a big B battery, bought with money from Daddy's government loan the year he and Roy began clearing our land. I remember the first song I heard on it, Hobo Bill's Last Ride by Jimmy Rogers, and how that image of a man dying alone in the freezing boxcar felt so real, so close to home. I remember tuning into WLW from New Orleans, WCKY from Cincinnati, XEG from Fort Worth, XERL from Del Rio, Texas. I remember the supper time frolic show at 6 o'clock in the evening from WJJD in Chicago, the Grand Ole Opry from WSM in Nashville on Saturday nights, the Renfro Valley Barn Dance, and the Wheeling Jamboree from WWVA in Wheeling, West Virginia. I remember listening to Roy Ackloff, Ernest Tubb, Eddie Arnold, Hank Williams. I remember tuning into all kinds of pop music, Bing Crosby, the Andrews Sisters, the Gospels, the Blues, everyone from the Chuck Wagon Gang to Pink Anderson and Sister Rosetta Tharpe. I remember being allowed an extra 15 minutes on my midday break from the fields to listen to the Lovin' Brothers High Noon Roundup show from WMPS in Memphis. I remember how Daddy would go to bed every night at 8:05, right after the evening news broadcast, then yell at me and Jack, "Okay, boys, time to go to bed. You won't want to go to work in the morning. Blow that light out. Turn that radio off." Jack would turn his oil lamp down and hunch over his Bible. I'd lower the volume on the radio and put my ear right up against it. The music I heard became the best thing in my life. Daddy didn't like that. "You're wasting your time listening to them old records on the radio," he'd say. "They ain't real, you know. Those people ain't really there. That's just a guy sitting there playing records. Why'd you want to listen to that fake stuff?" I'd say, "But it's just as real as when they sang it and put it on the record. It's the same thing. But it ain't real. It's just a record." "I don't care. It sounds good. I like it." "Well, you're getting sucked in by all them people," he'd conclude. "That's going to keep you from making a living. You'll never do anything good as long as you've got all that music on the mind." Let's jumping along. I'm trying to get into another section of the book, but it's a little difficult because they don't tell us at the top of the page. Let's stop on page 102. I don't know who. Oh, it's talking about Gene Autry. It's about Gene Autry, Merle, the source of the guitar style called Travis picking, and a whole lot more. Songs, stories, wit, wisdom, advice, encouragement, humor, pleasure, fun in all its formed. Work with Gene in his glory days, which by all accounts were indeed glorious. Gene, the king of the singing cowboys, was one of the biggest stars in the world. People of my vintage, myself included, remember him as being wildly popular, probably the best-loved public personality on the earth, a wonder of straight shooting strength and virtue, and an inspiration to children everywhere. His arrival in Ireland, Merle recalled, produced a reaction that would have put Beatlemania to shame. 2 million people were jammed into the streets of Dublin around his hotel, making a sound like nothing Merle had ever heard before. Somehow the entertainers had managed to get from the airport to the hotel and in through a back door, and Gene had invited Merle to go up to his room for a drink. Merle did like to drink. So did Gene. Gene himself was a touch earthier than the character who sold the movie tickets. They had several shots of whiskey without saying a word to each other, just sitting in a room listening to that incredible noise surge through the open windows. Finally, Merle spoke. Gene, maybe you should go out on the balcony and let the people see you. Gene grunted. You think I should? Yes, I do. Well, let's have another drink first. They had another drink, and then another, and by the time the crowd was even louder, a constant roar, people frenzied for a glimpse of the hero. Merle was getting uneasy. Gene, I really think you should go out there on that balcony and wave your white hat to those people. Let them see you. You think I should? Yes, I think you should. Well, let's have one more drink before I do. They got themselves another drink, and Gene settled down again, not making a move. Finally, Merle couldn't stand it. Gene, come on. Go on out on that balcony and wave to those people. Gene bestirred himself. By God, I will, he said. May the name of the Lord be praised. And strode to the balcony. He got out there and... Yeah, I'm not going to tell you. Here's one about a romance on page 144. I met Vivian at a skating rink in San Antonio, Texas, before I shipped overseas with the Air Force and began a romance that grew by mail. We wrote to each other almost every day, and as time went by and more passion and intimacy went on the paper, every word of mine written in green ink, a color reserved just for her. Vivian still has those letters in a trunk in her house, all but 24 of them. Last Christmas, she gave 6 to each of our 4 girls. That scared me at first, but I guess it's fitting. By the time I came home from the Air Force on July 4th, 1954, ex-Sergeant Cash and Miss Liberto knew 2 things. We were going to get married and have a family, and I was going to be a singer. She encouraged me all the way in both ambitions, even though the only singing she'd heard me do was on a disc I'd made in a booth at the railroad station in Munich for 1 Deutschmark. My first record, an unaccompanied rendition of Carl Smith's Am I the One? She wore it out, unlike the Barbarian tapes. That one's not in the archive. Am I the one who always holds you till the end of time? In retrospect, it's strange that I chose a Carl Smith song. He was June Carter's husband at the time. Vivi and I were married on August 7th, 1954, by her uncle, Father Vincent Liberto. Dun, dun, dun. What did happen with that marriage? Oh. Not good. I really don't know much about Johnny Cash at all, so I don't want to spoil it for me or for you. Page 180. Let's go to 189. There's a lot of dialogue on 188, and it's hard to do the back and forth by myself. I don't listen to music much at the farm unless I'm going into songwriting mode and looking for inspiration. Then I'll put on something by the writers I've used for years. Rodney Crowell, John Prine, Guy Clark, and the late Steve Goodman are my big 4, or any music in any field that has any real artistry, or something that promises a connection to what's essential in my own music. Old blues, old country, old gospel. Most recently, I've been listening to Rodney's Jewel of the South CD, one of his very best, and the chants of the Benedictine monks. What? Wait, it gets weirder. And then I've also been playing with my Tibetan singing bowl, which has its own wonderful world of sound. It's made of 7 different kinds of metals: gold, silver, brass, bronze, and metals from the meteorites that land intact on the mountain peaks of the Himalayas, where there's less atmosphere than anywhere else on Earth to burn them up before impact. The bowl produces the most amazing variety of sustained, unearthly tones. It comes with an instrument wrapped in chamois leather, resembling a kind of pestle that you use to crush corn or rock salt in a mortar. You rub that around the rim. How fast and hard you rub determines the pitch and intensity of the tone the bowl produces. And then you put your face down the bowl and listen. It feels like hearing a pipe organ in a cathedral. It's a wonderful tool for taking me to another place, a more peaceful place. I have a little garden here, an 8x12 patch of ground in the yard where I used to grow vegetables. What vegetables does he grow? You'll have to read and find out. Let's go towards the end. I'm in a new section here. Part 5, The Road Again, Chapter 1. It's page 271, as I found out down here in the crack of the book. I'm relaxing on the porch of my room in a beautiful hotel in Ashland, Wisconsin, beside Lake Superior, gazing out into the soft, clear morning and seeing what I can see. What is it, bear? The lights are on in the house across the street. They didn't come on until about 8 o'clock, by which time I'd been up almost 3 hours. The man of the house left for work about 8:45 in a little white car, one of those $13,000 jobs. The house has 2 stories and a steeply sloping roof, like most structures where there's a lot of snowfall. A low chain-link fence surrounds the backyard and a barbecue grill is set up on the grass. A dog is roaming back and forth along the fence, trying to find a way out. No special breed, just a doggy-looking dog. He is a storyteller, if nothing else. I do so look forward to reading this book. It's probably going to be after my silent retreat, but it is on the list. I'm very excited to read it. I hope you liked that sampling. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them below, and as soon as I read it, I'll get back to you. Friends, may God bless you and keep you. May He make His face to shine upon you, be gracious unto you, and may the good Lord bless you. In nomine Patris, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti. Amen.